Yes, people, hope you're all good. My latest track, You Are So, the DnB edit, came out last week on Friday. Thank you so much for the support as well. If you've been listening, if you've been streaming, buying, whatever you've been doing, thank you so much. The original track, You Are So, is a track under my other alias, which is called iToner. Now, iToner's like lo-fi, hip-hop, down-tempo, real vibey stuff, chill, relaxing, studying, whatever you're doing. I set it up in lockdown purely for that reason. Now, occasionally, the iToner tracks drift over to the ENiGMA Dubz realm slightly, sonically. And when that happens, I release them as a joint venture. So the original You Are So went out on the streaming platforms, especially as iToner and ENiGMA Dubz. Now, over the last year, it's been a firm favourite in my sets for ending my set, the original has. And what I tend to do for longer sets when I'm booked for like 90 minutes or 2 hours is I end my set playing DnB. And after the DnB, I tend to mix You Are So in because it's exactly half the tempo of DnB. And I always keep a DnB track rolling over the top initially when I'm mixing live, and I just cut all the low end out of it, and it just adds some nice high end energy, and I eventually fade it out. And whenever I do that, immediately I know how sick this track would sound as a DnB tune. So I've been waiting for the right time, and finally the DnB edit of You Are So, it's out now, ENiGMA Dubz, and I'm going to show you guys a full track breakdown, how the track came together, what I added to it, what I used from the original, and let's dive into it right now. I think the best thing to do would be to play the track through with the project open here, so you can just get an idea of how things are coming in on the timeline. I'm using Logic Pro, but whether you're using Ableton, Reason, Fruity Loops, however you're producing, it'll be the same principle. So let's get into it, and then I'll break down the track afterwards.
You are so good, but you were so fine. You were so fine, but I would cry. You were so good. You were so fine. You were so fine, but I would cry. You were so
Right then, so that's pretty much the full track. We've got the verse comes back in here and then rolls out to the outro eventually. So yeah, that's the full track in its entirety. Now, if we break it down, I'll show you all the layers, I'll show you all the groups and all the instruments that are getting this remix together. So first of all, if anyone's seen any production videos from me before, they will realise that my arrange window is pretty much the same in every single track that I do in where I organise things and put them. So at the very top of the project is all the percussion. So I'll play the percussion first so you can just hear that on its own. So yeah, plenty of energy in the percussion. It's comprised of a collection of one-shots and also loops as well. So the main body of the one-shots are the kicks and the snares. Let me just play those on their own first. Couple of loops in the background here. Now the loops have got some hats in there and also like syncopated drums as well on the offbeats to give it that shuffle. These top ones as well, just for texture really. And then finally for the extra energy and proper DnB swing, it's got the shakers. So that's all of the percussion layers together, and what I do is I run all the percussion through a bus, and on the bus I add some compression, and what it's basically doing is soft clipping, and this is the most basic compressor on Logic. And over here in the distortion, if you put soft distortion on and then use the threshold and the ratio to suit, you get like a nice bit of crunch and a bit of clipping on top as well. So if I bring the ratio and the threshold right off, I'll slowly add them and hopefully you'll be able to hear. Basically, it's just gluing it all together. Right, here we go. I'll turn the compressor off, and then while it's playing, I'll turn it on. Now the difference is only subtle, but what it does is the kick has a fair amount of punch in it still. The compressor doesn't lose the punch of the kick. It loses a bit of the very bottom end, which isn't a bad thing when you bring the sub into it as well. But what it's doing, it's lifting all the transients up in the little gaps as well, just to bring as much energy in the percussion out as possible. But you just have to be careful that you don't put too much of a heavy compression on, because then you start to lose all the peaks and your snare won't be popping as much as it was before. So it's only subtle, but it does a great job of gluing all the percussion together. So below the percussion in the project, these are all the layers which were in the original iToner track, so I'll play them now collectively. So anyone who knows the original will recognise that synth. That's the synth from the original mix, which would have been made in Spire by Reveal Sound, I believe. Then you've got these breath, ambience and foley sort of sound layers, which are bounced all into one file. And they just add a lot of texture in the background of the track. And then down here, this vocal atmosphere stab. And then underneath, this really cool beep, which I just really liked. And I kind of pitched the beep so it was in key with the rest of the track. Now down here, all of these are vocal lanes, the main vocal being here. And then with the DnB version, I wanted to add a different flavour to it, so I've pitched some of the vocals around differently. Here's the main vocal, which you'll recognise from the original, hopefully. You were so kind. You were. And then what I did is I added these extra cuts in there. You were so good. And those extra pitched up versions as well just really pop off in the mix, so I really enjoyed doing that. I absolutely love working with vocals and manipulating them. Anybody who's been a fan of my music over the years will probably recognise that I just love to go in with the vocals. Now, these are the synths. The synths don't really come in until the middle of the track and then over the second drop. So here are they on their own. Here are the synths on their own, should I say. And this is using Spire by Reveal Sound. This is a great plugin, by the way. There's lots of different expansions you can get for different styles. So the banks I'm using for this one are mainly, it says EDM Essentials, but I tend to use the trance ones, the retro synthwave stuff as well, and then manipulate the sounds as I want to in the track. Bits of automation on this one coming in there, as you could hear it creeping up there. And then on the actual second drop itself, so those are adding the euphoria on the second drop, and you'll notice they're very thin in the mix. If I analyze them here with the EQ, there's no bottom end below 100, and even then it's not very present anyway. The bottom end isn't, because I needed this to be a layer over the top of the bass, which you'll hear in a minute. And then there's a couple of extra synths in the middle breakdown as well, which just feature there only, and they're here. And this is like an arpeggiated synth, which I made in Spire as well, from a preset. And then that filters down, second drop comes in. Now down here, we've got the B line, which is a mixture of the sub bass holding the bottom end together. And then with this track, I've separated it, so I've got more control over the mix. So you've got mid-range layers on top of the sub as well. Now I can just show you the riff, because the riff's dead simple. Just rolls along like this. Now that's the sub and the mid-range together. If you just listen to the mid-range on its own, now you'll notice there's some movement going on and some ducking. That's because I've got it sidechained to the kick. The other thing which I've got rolling on top is this bit crusher. Now if I turn it off, it's only very subtle. I'll turn it on while it's playing. Now hopefully you heard that come on, and all that's doing is the resolution has been downgraded from 16-bit down to 10-bit, and as you come down on the bit crushing and crush those bits and go lower and lower, you get more and more artifacts and more dirtiness coming through. I didn't want it to be too much, and I just wanted it on the sort of top end of the sound, hence why I split this bass in the end and had the sub bass separately. So collectively with the kick, so you can hear the side chaining. And as you can see with the compressor, every time the kick hits, it ducks the level down. In this track, it's quite aggressive, the side chain is, because I really wanted the kick to punch through, and the kick itself's got a nice bit of bottom end on it as well, so it's not missing any bottom end when the kick comes in and knocks that side chain going. So that's the B, that's the B line, the bottom end, the bass, whatever you want to call it. And then at the very bottom of the project, this is all the effects. So you've got like impacts, you've got risers, and then you've got these sort of atmosphere beds here as well. This is collectively. So there's that kind of wavy atmosphere which is running there. That's from a sample which I found, and as you can see here, I've cut it into sections which I wanted the sort of shape of the sample to work like. Another plugin which I like using is Logic's Tremolo, and it just basically adds shape. So you choose the rate. This is a half a beat, and it's kind of moving like that. You can feel it sort of chugging along, and having the tremolo on it as well just gives it shape. When the rest of the track's coming together, you get this groove going on with it as well. The very bottom, I will give another shout out to Virtual Riot, because I adore his atmosphere pack on Splice. So with this atmosphere, I kind of heard it and immediately knew I wanted to use it as like a high string. If you listen to the actual sample originally, It's got so many nice layers to it, but I purely just wanted it for its top end. So the first EQ here is very heavy, and then I did it even further just to properly cut it. And then you're just left with literally the very top end. We're talking what, like 3K and above probably. A little bit around 2K as well, but you've got all this nice sort of, not too much there. You don't want it to be too piercing, but it just sits in the mix really nice. If I solo that with the bass as well. It just really glues it all together, gives it a lovely euphoria, and just the vibe's sick. So there you go, those are all the layers working together. Percussion at the top, original samples which I've manipulated, vocals, bass at the bottom, and then obviously on the second drop, those extra euphoric synths come on top of the bass as well. So there you have it, people. I really hope you've enjoyed watching this. It's given you a bit of an insight into how the track came together. The track's out now. You Are So, the DnB edit. Go and listen to it. Go and stream it. Go and buy it. Whatever you want to do. Thank you so much for listening. And one other thing as well, if you like this video and you want to see more of it, I'm considering starting a Patreon. And if that's something you'd like to see, let me know in the comments. Also, while you're in the comments, any questions at all to do with this track that you want to ask me, I'll answer them. And also my production in general, any questions you've got, shoot a comment down there. I will definitely get back to you. So in the meantime, go and listen to the track, go and enjoy it. And I hope you're all good. Big up yourselves.